Hey, what's up, everybody? Sean here with the next video in my personal fitness journey update. Hitting week 5 here, just finished it up. If you watch my last week videos, I had two of them. I had my week 4 recap, but also had my 1 month milestone recap video where I did a little bit of reflection on the process so far, what I thought needs to be improved. For example, I've realized I'm not really hitting a lot of ab exercises in my strength routines. I'm not really eating a lot of fruit or dairy products, so I'm trying to incorporate some of those changes going forward. So I encourage you to check that out if you have a chance. But we're going to move forward here and provide a review or a recap of this latest week for my fitness journey. All right, so starting off with day one. Day one is a strength training day. So this one involved a lot of the hammer curls, pull downs, single arm rows. There's a slight difference in the way this is presented this week compared to previous weeks, based off some of that changes with the reflection of that 1 month video. So one of the things doing some research that I found is that in order to really focus on the building of the muscle mass and the strength, you got to push yourself to the failure every time, or at least close to that failure every time. So one of the things I've done here is to try to reflect when I hit failure. So, for example, looking at the hammer curl there, 25 is the amount of weight, 10 is the amount of reps, and then in parentheses there with the underline is my failure set. So, in my final set, I did 13 reps instead of 10. And then again, it's a total of 3 reps there, with that last one being the fail set. The color in green indicates that it was an improvement over the last time this exercise routine was done. And then, for example, like the upright row essentially means that I did the same for all 3 sets. It's just that last set, there was no changes, and that was the point of failure. So overall, you see, still made a little bit of progress. That number at the end, again, is a total volume. So the work volume, that's where you multiply the weight by the number of reps by the number of sets. And I'm using that as my primary tracking mechanism to show that I've made progress along the way. And as you can see, looking at the charts, in most cases, I'm at least on a upward trajectory. One of the other changes I've made this week is that I'm modifying the way I'm presenting the food that I'm eating. I'm still capturing the images of all the food so you get an idea of what I'm eating. Again, I'm not a type of person that does the calorie counting, portion sizing, but if you're taking a journey that's similar, at least you have some type of point of reference to see, okay, so that's how much food Sean is eating. I might be able to eat something similar to that and get similar results. But what I've done here is that I've changed it from reflecting breakfast, lunch, and dinner and breaking out what I ate in each of those areas to different categories of food: the protein, grains, fruit, dairy, vegetables, etc. And as you can see, I'm, just like in previous weeks, I'm very high on the vegetables. I get a lot of them for lunch and dinner. The cans of V8 include some vegetables inside the omelets I usually get for breakfast. Fruit, still a little bit low on there. I got fruit that I get added into my yogurt and my oatmeal every morning just for a little bit of flavor. Typically, I add some raisins to that. Bananas, I'll have a lot of those. Orange juice, and then milk. I'm starting to add milk in there along with the Greek yogurt to increase the amount of dairy. So there you can see all the stuff that I'm currently eating, including the unhealthy stuff. So that cheesecake on the bottom right for dinner, green tea with honey. It's one of the things I'm adding in for a lot of my breakfasts, adding some honey in there to help fuel the muscles with some sugars, healthy sugars at least, or I'm told it's healthy sugars. And then stuff like mozzarella sticks, where it might go under dairy, but I probably wouldn't consider it healthy enough. So it's probably more of a junk food, similar to like ice cream. Ice cream I probably could fall under dairy, but I would throw that probably as more of the junk food stuff to avoid that I've had along the way. Day 2 was a cardio day. So this one was at the row machine. Did it for 30 minutes, just like in the past. This time I hit 5,000 meters, which is the highest I've had yet. Also did jump rope. So again, doing that 2 minutes of jump rope, 1 minute of rest, and then repeating that for 4 cycles. Next week, I think I'm going to actually improve that and maybe do 2.5 minutes and 1.5 minute rest and go from there. It was a cardio day. It also means it's a fast day. So nothing there other than a lot of water, some electrolytes. In this case, I'm a big fan of the Gatorade Propel Fitness electrolyte packs. They have 0 calories, supposed to have zero sugar. So it gives you something to keep you going, which is important on these fasting days to keep the electrolytes up, especially if you're drinking a whole ton of water. Day three, back to strength training exercises. So this is one of those examples of how changing the way I'm doing the push to failure had a little bit of unintended consequences. For example, here in most cases, I did essentially the same thing here as previous weeks. Squat, despite the fact that I improved the weight for the regular sets and the push to failure sets, I had overall volume decreased. The reason was because last time I did this exercise, even though I used less weight on the failure set, I did 20 reps instead of 10. So overall, when you throw that into the calculation, the overall work volume is lower. So I'm going to try to focus on that moving forward, seeing if way that I can at least keep the volume going up, but still push myself to failure every time. And then you can see the rest of the exercise there had quite a bit of improvement. So good there. Food that you can see there on day three, which again, didn't mention on the previous image, but day three was also the Tuesday, which means it was Boxing Day. So added a 45-minute Boxing Day class for that. Grains, I'm adding in all kinds of different stuff here. We had some fried rice, had some granola that I throw in there with the yogurt typically. Fruit, had a whole variety of them. This time they had some blueberries and some pineapples. So one thing that they did have this week a lot of was avocado. I'm a huge avocado fan. So tried to incorporate that into all the meals that I had this week, or at least once a day. Mushrooms, wasn't quite sure if they actually fall as a vegetable or not, since they're technically a fungus, but yeah, I threw that in there. All right, so day four was a cardio day. In this case, it was a bike and a stepper. So I had that dip last week because as I did the stepper in the previous weeks, I went up pretty high because I bumped up the level of resistance to 4, dropped it back down to 3 without realizing it for week 4. So it caused a little bit of a dip because it's only so many steps per minute. Kept it at level 3 this week, but I bumped up the total amount of time, which meant more floors. Bike, same amount of time, slightly more miles than the previous time. Again, day 4. Oh, one thing with day 4 as well, as I mentioned, I really was missing that ab exercises. So I incorporated a ab class into every Wednesday now. So you'll see that going forward, just a boxing class every Tuesday. No food on day 4, so not much here. Day 5, okay, so this one was a day of mixed results, and one of those unintended consequences of pushing the failure by adding more weight. So, yes, in essence, adding more weight will ultimately get you using more of your muscles at hypertrophy. However, adding more weight also means that you have less reps that you could do, which means less overall volume. Now, again, I'm not an expert on this. Whether or not the overall work volume is a good measure for how I'm progressing, I don't know. But in this case, it's something that's easy for me to track on a week to week basis to see some metric number that can be tracked consistently from week to week. In this case, I didn't necessarily do them in this order. I didn't do deadlift, squat, and then bench. I started off actually with squat, and that's where I realized that when I added that 165 pounds for the squat, which was the highest that I've done yet, I could only do 3 reps in there and then 3 sets of that. But compared to previous times, because I didn't do the 5 reps, so it makes a big difference between 3 reps over 3 sets. That's essentially 9 less instances of using that amount of weight. So it was slightly lower. Now, on the deadlift side, I did something similar. Again, bumped up the weight to about 165, could only really do 3 reps of that. But to compensate for that, after the fact, I added an additional set, still slightly lower than what it was previously, but overall, the total work volume for deadlift increased, whereas squat went down. And then bench, you can see there, bench is the area that I always have the toughest trouble. Even with 105 pounds, bumping up the weight there, I can only do 7 reps in that middle set versus the 10 reps that I try to push for. In this case, 115, I was able to get 6 reps. This is all green here because essentially it was a brand new set of reps that I didn't do the last time. Day 5, you can see the food here. Again, mixing up the different types of fruits that are available, some strawberries, some peach, a banana. Still trying to get that Greek yogurt and milk for the dairy. I got to find something else to add some more dairy because that's still very limited. So if you have any ideas, throw them in the comments. There's only 2 meals listed there, primarily because I'm hitting this point where on these eating days, I don't know, it doesn't look like I'm eating a whole bunch of food. Breakfast is usually pretty big. Lunch, it consists of a salad. In this case, it's like a piece of fish and some fruit as well. I mean, some vegetables, but I really wasn't hungry at dinner time. So I actually ended up skipping it. So I had a slightly longer fast moving into day 6. With that, day 6, I actually improved again on my run. So that spike in the middle on week 4 was because I had that cold and it basically pushed me back to where I started. I had that coughing fit while I was in the middle of running, had to stop, walk a little bit, and then continue to go. By the end of that week, I was able to get back to where I was on week 3. And now I've made a little bit more progress. Still a lot of way to go for my mile and a half to hit about 11, but I'm making progress. And then again, being a fasting day, no food, focusing on the electrolytes, that lemon water, salted water, green tea, those type of things. And then finally, wrapping back down to the same exercise we did for day 1, just because we have 6 exercises that rotate, we could see that we started off with the same type of exercises. Even from the beginning of the week, there's still some red here. Primarily, again, it's because I took the approach of adding additional weight for that failure set instead of doing additional reps. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research and thinking about how I want to do that. What's the best way to actually move forward? If I want to just push for more reps or pushed up for more weight, what's going to be the best way to build some strength? And then last day, you can see here all the meals. Again, still a fairly small dinner in there. I had some shrimp, some rice, or I guess in this case it was quinoa, some mushrooms. Had a whole bunch of V8s here for some more vegetables. Had 2 milks this time, so one for breakfast, one for dinner. But along with that, I also had some ice cream, which you can call dairy, but again, it's a little bit junk food. All right, so that concludes the majority of the recap here for this week. Still seeing gains. As always, I like to give you an opportunity, if anybody is here actually watching, to put in a comment real quick what you think my prediction is going to be for weight and waist measurements. Do you think I'm staying the same? Do you think I've lost a couple pounds? Do you think I've gained a couple pounds? And again, muscle weighs more than fat, so maybe one of these weeks I'll see something where it goes up. So put your guesses in there, and I'm about to do the reveal in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So here you can see over the last week, I lost 2 more pounds, which I think is a healthy level. Any more than that, it starts getting unhealthy levels of weight loss, especially sustained. Overall, I'm about 12 pounds down. I did lose another half an inch, so about an inch and a half total from where I started measuring. And then on the bottom there, you can see that chart. So again, going from alternate day fasting, where I'm eating 3 meals a day, to another day where I'm only eating or not eating anything, the weight fluctuates quite a bit. So it was below 170 at the lowest. It was almost 179 or almost 178 there in the highest. So the average there came out to about 172, which is what I use for my current weight. Still only very minor differences in the top left there. You see where I started about a month ago, a little bit more than a month. On the bottom is where I am now. Still got a lot of the gut, which means I gotta definitely focus on that ab work. Maybe a little bit of difference in tone in the arms, but overall, very minimal differences so far. And just got to keep pushing. And hopefully, as we look back at this a couple months from now, it'll all be in the past. And you'll see that the progress was made. It's just very slow. All right, with that's all I have. So I'm going to end the video there, and I'll see you in the next one.